What's going on, guys? So today on this Shoky kinda quickie, we're going to take a look at something new from the Sentinel Riobot line, and it is the Tekkaman Blade figure. And for those who don't know, I grew up watching Tekkaman Blade, or as they called it here, TechnoMan. And they only really got through like maybe half the first season before it was canned, for whatever reason. So I never got to see where it really went. I did enjoy the show. It was one of my early treks into anime, right behind Ronin Warriors and Gundam Wing, and of course Dragon Ball and Sailor Moon. But either way, so this is a really cool figure, and I was thinking, like, for the longest time, I was like, man, we need some TechnoMan stuff, and there were figures for a while, and I think even model kits, and then they just sort of disappeared, and then all of a sudden, Sentinel says, hey, we're going to get this. I did pick this up from the BBTS, and it is very, very cool. I love the logo down here. Good thing wraps around the box. You can see all that goodness going on there. This light is not my friend today. And you come around to the back, and you've got him right there in a different pose. You got him in his beam attack mode, and then just standing there like a kick-ass person. That's pretty badass. Gotta love that. Then you come around there, you get another wrap around thingy. You come down here, and you get all the things and such, and warnings and stuff. Info at union/creative.jp. Now, if I remember correctly, so this is Sentinel, but I think it's also tied together with 1,000 Toys. Seems like Sentinel, 1,000 Toys, and a lot of those companies are all sort of together because they all sort of have the same kind of quality and things like that. Now, in the box, just real quick, I'm going to show the clamshell before I get started. And obviously, I don't have much of I already had the figure out and stuff like that. So some of the accessories are still in here. I will be pulling them out. You do also get a stand, which is awesome. And you get the setup instructions, because you do have to do a tiny bit of pre-assembly. So you're basically assembling his little earpieces there. And frankly, the instructions are kind of difficult. You just kind of have to figure it out on your own. And placing these super tiny plastic pegs into the side of his head is really scary. And then I have you there setting up his back skirt / shield, and then how to utilize the legs. That is literally all the instructions they give you. So let's get him out here and see how cool he is. All right, guys, so here he is on display, at least how I have him setting, since he's been on my desk for like well over a month, to the point I actually forgot I had him, if I'm honest. And it's pretty cool. I do like this base. It does remind me a lot of the Flame Toys base. It's got a lot of the similar thingies to it. So obviously there's a lot of things in there. But he's very cool, painted very well. I believe there is some die cast involved, along with just all kinds of goodies, as it were. So let me get him out here for a second. I figured that might happen. Stand, plastic base, got this clear piece with the grid. You can sort of set this up however you want, like as long as you've got a offset kind of situation, you can do that. Got screws and stuff holding it together. You know, it's similar to a Figwarts base, I believe. And it does have the thing you can pull this off, and you have a plug there. So in some cases, they'll have a hole in the backside, and you can just plug it in instead of having to use the claws. You do get these two claws, and then I discovered these guys down here that I don't even know if I knew they were there. And you got extra holes for plugging stuff together. I don't know if there's like an interactive, like if you have multiple bases, you can like lock them together or anything like that. Seems like something you could do, especially with this, you know, slider ridge system. So let's set the base aside. And we'll look at him here. Let me go ahead and take his blade out of his hand. And then I'll take the shield off his butt so we can look at these things. So he does have these twin blades, and actually in the series these little bits could like fly off and stuff like that. And this is the like single blade mode, no pun intended, so like the dual ended situation, which is neat and all that, but oops, gotta get my hands here. He does come with individual handles, which is pretty cool. And actually, this is very similar to the way that the Ryo's swords work. Also, it has a square peg to keep things aligned, which is nice. So no excess rotation, which is always a good thing. And you get now twin sword version, which is cool. So I don't remember if when he transformed and everything and he could summon his weapons, if it came out in twin form already or it came out in single handle form. Sorry, I just realized how dark everything was. So, but that's that. And then something interesting. So he does come with this shieldy thing. It's very strange, but it is what it is. And the underside looks very unfinished, in my opinion, but it is what it is. It does have this dual hingy part here with a tab. So that can usually plug back in here on his butt, like so. And it is like a rear skirt armor, which is fine, but it also serves a different purpose, especially out of the box. You get this little cover piece here that covers the slot in that screw hole. Nice little gray piece there. And then you can take this and apply it to his arm somehow. How does that? Now I'm trying to remember how everything plugs in. That doesn't make sense. Hold on. Because I thought it would... No. I'm forgetting something. What, I feel like there's an adapter that I'm missing. Hold on. Okay, so I am dumb, actually. The funny thing is the adapter is already the piece that I have on it. Stay there. So it's actually this piece that's the adapter. I forgot about that. You have to put it on to attach it to his rear end. So that actually has the straight tab in it, and then you can just tab this to the arm. And to be totally honest, I did not remember a lot about this show. I remember the shoulder cannons, and I remember a lot of other things. His transformation sequence, which is pretty cool. I wish they'd come with his crystal. Like, he's got this cool crystal thingy that he transforms literally inside of, which is... Yeah, y'all saw that, right? Okay, so I'll show you how that works here in a second. But you get a tiny little slot right there in the green thingy, which is, of course, a cool little harpoon thingy. I'm trying to feign enthusiasm because I really don't like this gimmick. In fact, I don't tend to like harpoon gimmicks on figures anyways, and this one is not great because if they had made it come from underneath or something where it plugged in better and like had a whole adapter and all that stuff instead of just the wire plugging into that hole, I think it would have been better. But this, in my opinion, was a poor design choice. It works, but you have to be very careful. It is still a bare wire underneath. You have to be careful not to scrape anything. But he actually uses this weapon kind of often, either to wrangle things, to, poke into things from a distance, or something like that. The one real downside to this particular figure, and I guess technically it's a character flaw too, he has no weapon storage. That's the only weapon he technically stores. If you even want to consider that weapon storage, which I guess, you can. So there's that. And obviously his little cheek vent there popped off, and I'm going to be very careful about retrieving it. Okay, so now you'll see just how difficult this is. So you had to sort of plug in this first one and then plug in the second one on top of it. There are some flaws with this, and considering the price of this, and it is an expensive figure, it has a lot of issues. Like, that should plug in better, but it's not. And part of me wonders if it's because this is not. If you don't have the two pieces lined up just right, they won't plug in, which seems to be where I'm at. See, like, that's just not going in there. And this is one of those times where I would love to be straight up praising a figure for how good it is instead of pointing out all the flaws. Okay, so I got that in there. So there's that. All right, so he does come with an assortment of hands. At the moment, I have the sword holding hand and just an open expressive hand on there. And then I've got another right side expressive hand done in a nice matte finish. I have a left side sword holding hand, nothing crazy. And then two just general fist hands. They're molded nicely enough. They do have that tiny little ball joint connection that the 1,000 Toys and other Sentinel stuff does have, and Riobot has, basically. Okay, so let's talk details. Painted to the nines for the most part, and I mean, look at those eyes. That's super green, metallic, and it's also a metallic green piece underneath, probably for a little bit of light effect. And then even these pieces are painted different colors. There's gray and white. You got the red plastic with a coat and then a yellow dot there. He's very Gundam-esque. And I mean, white paint, gray paint, more gray paint, yellow paint back here on his thrusters, silver paint there, gunmetal paint on this thingy that slides up and down, which I think I broke by accident. So that's just a piece that covers down on his back as you manipulate things. And then you got another kind of grayish color here along with more gunmetal. And then another interesting thing, you can flare these pieces out here. Be careful, they are very tiny and fragile, if I'm honest with you. And then he has some die cast from what I can feel, but I'm not entirely certain what all it might be. I think this core for sure is die cast. And then once again, white paint, gray paint, red plastic, yellow paint for the chest. And the head, ball joint there alongside with a hinge. He can extend his neck, same thing down there. So he can really move around. Just once again, watch all those pieces. Shoulders have a really big ball joint swivel with a little bit of a butterfly joint right in there. Moves everything up and down. Very Gundam-like because of these gigantic shoulders, which do move independently of the inside, but because you also have this guard here, his arm can't really come up. I'll show it off on this side because you can see a bit better without the shield. That's about as far out as he can go. He's not getting out to 90 degrees. Also, this one, super loose, double jointed elbow. Also, it feels really strange. There's something wrong with the way it's assembled, and you can just feel it when you move it. It does have bicep rotation. And look, you can see the double jointed elbow won't go past this point. Like, it feels like it's about to break something. So something is not pinned properly, and I'm not going to force it. The forearm armor does rotate. You got white paint, yellow paint, silver paint all throughout. That looks good. Of course, the hand. Nothing crazy. Wrist is on a ball joint. I think there's a hinge in there. Could be wrong. And then the chest has all the articulation you could want. So you could lean him way back and you got this huge piece here. So that's like die cast. This is plastic. And once again, you got that cover down part. And I think the last time I messed with this is when I jacked it up. So you can see when you really open it up, you can see the joints by accident. And this what this is supposed to cover. But it doesn't, because I think I busted it. Something just fell off. I heard it, but I don't know what it was. Oh, it was a butt plate. Okay. I'm gonna have to find that because I don't see it anywhere. Oh, it's on the ground. Okay. And when you come down here, you can rotate at the hips as well. I don't believe there's rotation in the middle, so I'm not going to rotate too much. The hips can extend to give you a little bit more range, which is fine. Don't come up very high, but you can do that number. And then, of course, if you suck him up, it just looks a little bit better. He can kick forward until he runs into stuff, just fine. He can kick back if you don't have anything on the butt. The leg comes off if you work it a little too much. That scared the crap out of me, by the way. All right, so you got thigh rotation there. I think it will rotate at the armor. Maybe not. Okay. And then yellow piece here that's painted, but it's an inserted piece. The front white and the back white, I think, are actually different colors. It's kind of hard to tell, but just with my naked eyes, that's what it looks like. Silver bits there. Double jointed knee. That's really good for all that. Even a piece inside there to really just make it not stand out. Gray paint, silver paint, white paint all over it. And then, you know, more gray paint, separate little pieces, yellow pieces here, which are definitely going to be rubbing on things. And the ankles move up and down. You get a little bit of tilt, but the way the foot is designed, you're kind of screwed. The toes can point up, but can't point back. And more die-cast pieces down here, though. I think he had a high-speed mode where these things like all tucked together to be almost like a V-fin, and then like other stuff like popped out on him and or tucked away tighter so you could fly faster. I know that was a thing in the show. All right, so of course Gimmicks, he does have his shoulder blasters, Techno Cannon or something like that. Now, one thing that is bad about this one is pinned in badly, just like this elbow. You can see here it's floppy. It won't even lock in place. You can see there's a tiny little slot right there that is actually supposed to kind of tab into, and it never wants to stay. I often pop it off by accident, but you can see even at the shoulders being level, that one opens and stays. This one, it does not, and it is super freaking annoying. And I can push it back, but I can feel the tension, like, because it's sitting on top of this. This is fine. This one is not. But he would basically fire some really big green energy bolts like this. And when he had Pegasus, whichever he technically was, in the English version, he was just Pegasus. And it was a big robot that he used to transform. He would fly on it, and then he could do like a really ridiculous super attack with it until I think he got a new crystal or something like that. And then eventually, as I found through YouTube clips, he does evolve. Like his armor changes, gets bigger, more ridiculous. See, that just doesn't fit anymore. That's weird. So now there's fitment issues with pre-existing parts. But, you know, he can do some nice poses and stuff. Like I had him in a decent pose off the beginning. He stands fine as long as you make sure his feet are definitely under him. As you saw earlier, he fell over fairly easy. Not really back heavy. There's no backpack to speak of. But, like, to me, it's annoying that he doesn't have any weapon storage. Sorry. Especially considering he's got some cool weapons. But this is why having toes that tilt up is a bad plan. Like, it looks fine when you're trying to get him to stand like he's walking or something. But then if you need him to stand and that toe just gives out because the pin sucks, then you end up falling over. So let's see if we can get him about like tall and kind of menacing. Get the legs a little bit spread. It's a very cool character design, you know, and I even drew up a couple different versions of a TechnoMan back in the day. And they do have, it's not from Sentinel, it's from another company. Ooh, that's not a good sound. Let's be careful here. So, because he comes to Earth, he's not an alien. He's a human that got infected with a thing and was attempted to turn into a warrior for the enemy, but his transformation wasn't complete. And him and his father managed to sort of get out, sort of. His whole family were explorers and scientists. The rest were captured and turned into enemies. So he's basically fighting his family the whole time. Spoilers for like a 20-year-old series. There we go. I'm trying to just get his freaking sword in his hand. So you can see it's just, sometimes it's a lot to deal with. Now I got paint chipping. I kind of like the shield better as a butt skirt, but you can see here how this elbow is just pointless. You know, he looks super cool, but I'm definitely always going to keep him on the stand. Like 100%. I wonder, hold on, let me see here. I guess I got to check and see if you can get the, you might be able to get the stand plug into that screw hole. Maybe that'll work. But let's go ahead and compare him to very similar figures that I have, because I do have at least 2 figures from either Sentinel or 1000 Toys. Seriously, what the hell, man? Like, you're standing fine, and now because you're slightly posed, you won't. Like, that's problematic. Okay? So let's bring in the Master Chief that we looked at not long ago, who was ridiculously tall, by the way. And then the Ryo of Wildfire, and yes, I do have Sage on pre-order. I will have the next one as well. One problem with this Master Chief, that hand is barely holding onto the sword anymore. It's kind of weird. Ryo is actually fine. For some reason, Chief is still having problems. Things fall off of him, stuff like that. So for high-end figures, sometimes they have very weird problems. But as it goes, I like this guy. And I really can't wait to get more of him. Now, if we get the other versions of him, you know, his enemies, as it were, I'll probably pick up a couple of them. Like Saber. Saber was like his main rival. I think it was his big brother or his little brother. I don't remember, but it's got a very cool character design. Most of them did. And then his sister had a really cool design as well, even though she wasn't like a full-on enemy. She actually did have a Tekkaman form. So it's pretty neat. But guys, let me know what you think down below. Have you seen the series? Do you don't even know what the heck I'm talking about? And if you want to see more for these figures down the line, let me know. And, you know, what, if anything else, I should be taking a look at. But I will catch you guys next time. Remember, as always, keep on nerding.